If you'd like online business explained to you in a way that you can actually understand, go to latenightim.com/explain. It's completely free, and I made it just for you. Now, how about an episode?
Episode 95.
Late Night Internet Marketing.
This week on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast, I talked to you about a message I got from a longtime listener. I want to talk about what he had to say, answer his message on the air, and do it in a way that I think might help you as you go into the new year. All this and more on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
The Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
You've been working for somebody else, but you want a business to run yourself. You want to know how to start and where to begin. Can you get out your comfort zone, my friend? Yes, you can do it right when it's late at night. At the end of the day, your dreams burning inside. So keep it up and you will find that you're building your business one night at a time.
And now, broadcasting late at night from a little studio in the big state of Texas, your host, Mark Mason.
Hey, it's almost Christmas time here in the United States. We are just fired up and ready to go. I have the entire house lit up with lights. Maybe I'll throw a picture of that in the show notes so you can kind of see what the house looks like all lit up. I have kids, so kids like lights, so we have lights all in the front yard. Looks pretty cool. Whole street is lit up. It's kind of a tradition on our street to light up the house. We've got the Christmas tree up, and I have completed all of the shopping that I have to do, particularly the gifts for my wife are wrapped and under the tree. Very excited about that. I really like shopping for her, but I'm very concerned about getting it right. Not that she's very demanding, but it's important to me. So every year I kind of enjoy/stress out over that a little bit until it's done. And this year I got it done well in time. So I'm very excited about that. So I wanted to talk about a couple of pieces of feedback that I got. The first one is an iTunes review I got from Mexico. So a little shout out to those of you that are listening to the podcast in Mexico. It always amazes me when I take the time to look at my stats over at Libsyn. Libsyn is the host for the podcast Data Files. Shout out to Rob and Elsie and everybody over at Libsyn. They do an amazing job for me and have since 2009. It amazes me the number of countries that listen to the podcast, where I have at least one download from 129 countries. So that's kind of amazing. So, in the whole world, there's approximately 200 countries. It changes. I think the current number is 190 something. So most countries in the world have someone, at least one person, who's listened to at least one episode of the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast. So I thank you for that. But particularly, I want to thank this listener in Mexico who took the time to go over to iTunes and leave a review on iTunes. I really appreciate that. Listener is listed as Eddie Brody from Mexico. Eddie, thank you so much for listening to the show. Thank you for the 5-star review. Here's the deal. 5-star reviews on iTunes really help us with ranking in iTunes. When people go to iTunes and they're trying to discover podcasts, they find the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast more often when it has more reviews, more listeners, more subscriptions in iTunes. So if you would like to go on over to iTunes and leave us a review, we love those reviews, and they help us be discovered by other listeners. And the more people that listen to this podcast, the more people that I can reach and help and do whatever. So I really do appreciate it, Eddie. Thank you so much for the 5-star review. Very much appreciated. By the way, while you're over in iTunes, you may not realize it, but I have launched a second podcast. Actually, I've revitalized it. I started the podcast in 2014. It failed to launch, kind of like that Matthew McConaughey movie, but it's back. It's called the Internet Marketing Minute, and you can find it at latenightim.com/IMM for Internet Marketing Minute. And you will find that it is a short format podcast, completely different content than is on this podcast. So it's not just a digest of what we talk about on here every week. It's actually a completely different podcast. And right now I'm going through a whole series on what is internet business and why I recommend affiliate marketing, and going through lots of different beginning affiliate marketing topics on that podcast. Eventually that podcast will turn into a thing where I deal with listener feedback, one question per show, kind of like Ask Pat, if you're familiar with that show, sort of similar to that, although different in a lot of ways that you'll hear when you go and listen to the show. So by all means, go ahead and go on over there to check that out, latenightim.com/IMM for Internet Marketing Minute.
And now, it's time to hear what listeners just like you are thinking. Late night listener feedback.
Okay, so I got this email on Facebook. This always confuses me. I get these messages on Facebook. And for those of you that have tried to reach out to me on Facebook in one way or another by writing on my wall or sending a message or posting on the fan page, sometimes it takes me a while to get back. I don't have a really good method for staying on top of that like I do with email. My virtual assistant and I are working on that a little bit, but the truth of the matter is I'm terrible at it. So sorry about that. But I noticed I had missed a message from a guy. We're going to call him Bob because I have not talked to Bob about this. He'll know who he is. He's from a town in California, and he reached out to me about a year ago, and he said, "Hey, thanks for what you do. Looking forward to learning more. I feel so lost in the world of online marketing. I wish there was more of a step-by-step tutorial out there. I'm a follower of Pat Flynn and Seth Godin and Gary Vaynerchuk and Tim Ferriss, and now your blog," that's me. "And I've been a photographer for 25 years, but it seems I'm way behind on marketing something unique in this niche. And I hope to find a nugget to roll with." So I missed that. That original message came to me in October of 2014. So I was going back and sifting through some Facebook messages, and I thought, oh my gosh, I missed this. So I reached out to this guy we're calling Bob, not his real name. And I said, "Hey man, it's a year later. I'm checking in. Sorry I missed your message. How are things going?" And I got this kind of one-line response back. "They're still the same." So this sounds very familiar to me. And I want to tell Bob, and I'll tell you if what Bob is talking about resonates with you a little bit. I have been in this situation where I started to do something, or I was thinking about doing something and failed to start. And then a year goes by and I'm still stuck in the exact same place. And I absolutely failed to do anything that really, moved the needle forward, right? This is not something to hide your head in shame about, right? This happens to people. It happens to successful people. It happens to my friends in the mastermind that I'm in. It happens to people that I know in my day job. You get these ideas and you fail to act on them. And a year goes by and absolutely nothing happens. So what I wanted to do for a bit here, since it's the end of the year, is talk to Bob about this, but really I'm talking to all of you because this has happened to so many of us. I think it's a really relevant discussion. So the first thing is, if you break this message down, the first thing Bob has to say is thanks for what I do. And Bob, I really appreciate that. Thank you for thanking me. The thanks and the feedback that I get from people, like the iTunes reviews and the emails and the messages on Facebook, all of that stuff, the tweets, boy, that means a lot to me. That adds fuel to the fire. Thank you very much. I love those. He talks about the fact that he has been a photographer for 25 years and is wanting to do something in the photography niche. Now, let me tell you a couple of things here that just jump out at me. I happen to know, I did a little background research on Bob, and it looks to me, from what I can find online, Bob has done some photography for hire in the past. He looks like, to me, from what I can tell, he even had a domain name up and running for a little while, based on the photography stuff that he was going to try and do online. In addition to that, he's got a day job. That makes Bob a lot like me. So he's doing this day job out in California, and it looks to me, even though I haven't talked to him, that he is interested in doing something online. And he's got this photography thing that he's been doing for 25 years. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say two things about that. One is, if you've been doing something for 25 years, you know a lot more about it than the average bear out there, okay? And photography is something that I know a lot about. I have a wife who is what I call a professional amateur photographer. She shoots a Canon 5D Mark III, for those of you that are interested in photography. So she's pretty serious about it. She's mostly interested in taking amazing pictures of our children. Sometimes she takes people's portraits and stuff like that. Almost never, or I guess maybe never for money, but she and I have learned a lot of photography together. In addition to that, I have an electrical engineering background with a focus on optics. So I know a lot about how cameras actually work. And I work for a company that made one of the more important semiconductor parts for Canon cameras for years and years and years. So I've been around photography. It's super complicated, super hard to learn, almost completely unapproachable for a new person. And so it is an outstanding niche for any kind of online endeavor that you can possibly imagine. There are all kinds of great things that can come from efforts in the photography niche. Of course, you can talk to very specific groups about photography. You can talk to moms. You can talk to soccer moms. You can talk to people who are trying to take pictures in basketball gymnasiums of their kids. You can talk about equipment. You can talk about different lighting effects and different how to take pictures in an auditorium. And you can talk to people who want to start a photography business. And I mean, there's just an endless array of things that you can talk about, from the equipment side to the people side to the art side to the technology side and so on. So there is no shortage in this niche of stuff to talk about. I mean, it's amazing. And photography is incredibly popular, and it's evergreen. There are always new photographers coming online that are starting off by buying a Nikon Sure Shot, or maybe that's Canon, one of these one-step cameras, and they're buying their first DLSR, and they're moving up and trying to buy, or maybe they're buying a Micro Four Thirds mirrorless camera or something, and they're really getting started on serious digital photography. There's an endless array of people that are out there that are thirsty for photography. And I'll tell you something else about photography. A lot of photography people are kind of photography elitists. You know, they're not interested in talking to somebody with a $250 DLSR camera and helping them take better pictures and get off of automatic mode and learn how to set the aperture. They don't want to talk to them about that. So there's lots of opportunity. And from a monetary standpoint, there's enormous opportunity because everything in photography is incredibly expensive. And all of it's for sale online. B&H Photo has a fantastic affiliate program. Amazon affiliate stuff is great for photography. I mean, there's plenty of opportunities for photography. So the first thing I'll say about this message from Bob is that the thing that he is interested in, photography, and the thing that he has all his experience in and can deliver all his value in, is absolutely great for online. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying, but Mark, there are so many people out there that already have photography blogs. They already have information out there about photography. How in the world am I going to compete? And I'll tell you, the way you compete is you are the only you out there. Bob is the only Bob. And there are some people that Bob, whatever Bob's message is, whatever Bob wants to talk about, I think Bob has done some wedding photography work. Maybe Bob wants to teach people how to take better wedding photographs, or maybe Bob wants to talk to starting photographers. Whatever it is that Bob wants to talk about, Bob is going to explain those things and teach those people and help those people in a way that only Bob can. And that's going to mean that maybe at first 10 or 20 or 100 or 200 or 300 or 400 people out of all the hundreds of millions of photographers in the world, a few hundred people are going to eventually find Bob, because the way Bob explained things uniquely reaches those people. I mean, Bob's got a unique voice. There's nobody else out there like him. And so, yeah, it's crowded, but Bob is the only Bob. He is uniquely able to provide his message to people online. And so, I don't buy this crowded niche. And, if I did, I would never have gotten in internet marketing, because what niche is more crowded online than internet marketing? So there you go. And you're listening to me right now. So if you're listening to me right now, Bob can find people to hear his message and benefit from whatever content it is that he decides to create out there on the internet. So I think we've got Bob here with expertise in a valid niche that's commercially viable. So what's the thing? Well, the thing is to start, to come up with a plan and start. And that's when I want to challenge all of the Bobs out there, not just Bob who sent me this message whose name isn't even really Bob, but all of you out there that have an idea, that don't maybe even know exactly what it is that you want to do, but you've got a direction. Just go out there and get started. And the best way for you to get started is to get out there, go register a domain, crank up Bluehost, and get WordPress up and running, and put a couple of blog posts out there on the internet and start mapping your journey. Yes, I understand that it's hard to imagine what this thing is going to look like in 5 years and how you're going to take over the internet with your new photography blog. But I'm telling you, if you don't start, you're not going to be able to ever do anything. You've got to start. So if this is you and you're just not quite sure what you want to do, you don't know if you want a product, you don't know if you want to be a blogger, you don't know if you want to focus on affiliate marketing, maybe you want to do consulting. The one thing that I'm sure of is you're going to need a presence on the internet. And that presence is going to need to be a website, and that website is going to need to have excellent, helpful content on it that you can start creating tonight. Right? You can go to latenightim.com/Bluehost right now, and you can register, get a free domain name, get a WordPress hosting package, and have that thing up and running by tomorrow and create that first piece of content. And maybe the first piece of content is really just a hello world piece that says who you are and what you're thinking you might do over the next few months. And here's a tip that I learned when I was starting out in photography, or whatever it is, but you got to get started. And then after you get started on day 2, you've got to take some action on day 2 and every day after that. Because as I've said so many times, if you'll just take a little action every day, by the time you get into the end of next year, instead of writing me and saying, hey man, I didn't do anything over the last year, you'll be writing me, Bob, and you'll be saying, you are not going to believe how much I accomplished over the last year by just doing a little bit every day. And there are 7 amazing things that happened that I didn't even know to imagine about at the beginning, because I just had never started that discovery process of actually having this adventure top of mind and working on it every day. That's how you get started. You just start. And all those dumb cliches about eating an elephant one bite at a time, and the longest journey of 1,000,000 miles starts with a single step, and all of those dumb things, those things are cliches because they're true, right? Cliches are dumb, but it turns out you don't get to be a cliche if you're not true to begin with. So, Bob, thanks for the message. If there's some way I can help you, I hope you'll reach out to me. I hope things are great out in California, and I hope to talk to you soon. And for the rest of you Bobs out there, learn from Bob's example and go get something done in 2016. It's almost here. Now, speaking of 2016, I've been spending a considerable amount of time over the last 2 weeks working in the new Best Year Ever course from Michael Hyatt. That you can find that at latenightim.com/BYE for Best Year Ever. And even if you have no intention of buying Michael's course, I think that's totally cool. I definitely think you should go to that link, opt in, and watch the free content there. There's quite a bit of free content that's going to be valuable for you in your planning for 2016 goals. So go check that out at latenightim.com/BYE. I'm going to tell you probably the most powerful part of Michael's course, and I think this is something that you can use. So even if you don't go to the link, here's something that you can take away right now. A lot of us will dare to dream and even write down some sort of amazing things for 2016. One of my goals for 2016, which is something that I've never been able to do before, is to create 250 unique pieces of content for late night internet marketing in 2016. So that's 50 or more of these podcasts. That's 50 pieces of content. That's 100 episodes of the Internet Marketing Minute. That's 50 blog posts, including some product reviews and other stuff. And it's 50 videos. All of that adding up to 250 pieces of content in 2016. That's darn near 10 times more than my average, it seems like. At least that's what it feels like over the last couple of years. So this is a huge commitment that I'm making. It's an outrageous goal for me, but it's one that I'll definitely achieve. One of the things that I've learned from Michael Hyatt time and time again, I learned this last year in the course and I'm learning it again this year, is the key thing to making those goals actually come true is understanding why those goals are important to you. What is your why? And so, getting back to Bob and people like Bob, Bob, if you really want to do this online thing, I think one of the things that you can really spend some time paying attention to is, why do you want to do that? I mean, you write me and you say, hey man, I kind of want to do this online thing. Why? What is it? Are you imagining getting out of your day job so you can spend more time with your family? Do you need the money? Are you trying to take care of your parents who might be in a financial situation where you want to help them? Are you trying to put your kids through college? Are you trying to buy your first home or pay off your house or buy a lake home or take that trip to Italy? What is it exactly? What is the why? Is it that you want to help people? That's a big why for me. I can't help people if I don't create content. I love doing that. I love those emails that I get that we talked about earlier where I say, hey, you really helped me, right? The only way I can do that is if I create content. So that's a big why for me. You need to know your why for your 2016 goals. And one of the cool things about this course that Michael does is it helps you. He has techniques for helping you discover your why. And I think that's probably the most powerful part of the course. But for you just listening to this podcast, you can just take that away for free here and just spend some time as you write down those, 10 things that you're going to do next year and understand why it is that you're going to do it. You're going to lose 30 pounds. Why? Why do you want to do that? Is it because somebody else wants you to? That's not a really good reason. It better be because you have this deep, motivating thing that's going to make you want to do it that you really care about. That's the difference between success and failure on these kind of goals.
It's time for your late night tech tip. Tools, tips, and tricks for your internet business.
So for a tech tip today, periodically I like to do these tech tips, and I wanted to talk a little bit about Buffer app. Now, for those of you that have done social media for any amount of time, you're familiar with Buffer. It's a great app. It competes with Hootsuite and now this other thing called Meet Edgar, I think that's been talked about a lot, as a tool, an online tool for scheduling your social media posts. This is useful because social media is one of those things that's instantaneous. You tweet, and the tweet goes out right now. Tweeting and posting on Facebook are essentially immediate. Buffer, on the other hand, steps in and says, okay, we recognize that that's not practical for most of you. We'd like to give you the opportunity to schedule a tweet or a Facebook post. So let's say that you're reading something on the internet and you say, wow, my followers would really like to see this content. This is great stuff. I'm gonna post it. But it's 3 a.m. and your followers aren't online at 3 a.m. So you can buffer it and say, okay, I want this to go out at noon tomorrow or noon on Tuesday when most of my followers are online. Or you can do things like you can say, okay, here are 10 carefully constructed tweets. I'm going to schedule these to go out through the rest of the week. So that's a really good app. One of the challenges for me with that app is it's still pretty manual. I mean, it does the batching in time so you can do everything at once, but it doesn't have this sort of database capability that I'm looking for. So let's say that I have a few central messages that I want to talk about on Twitter on and off again over the whole year. So for example, I want to remind people that they need to work on their business every day, at least a little bit, so that they can add up all that success over the entire year. Well, maybe I have a series of 10 or 15 tweets that I want to send out 5 or 10 or even 20 times over the stretch of a whole year. Hard to do that. So this week I want to tell you about some automation tools that at least start to help with that interface with Buffer app and allow you to upload a bunch of tweets into Buffer. Now, a word of caution. I am not talking about spamming Twitter with 40,000 tweets. And I've seen this done, and even with people that are really well-intentioned, where they decide, okay, I'm going to take every old blog post that I have, and I'm going to tweet out a link to that blog post 17 times a day, and you'll drive your Twitter followers crazy. That is not what I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about increasing your Twitter frequency to 100 or 200 or 500 tweets a day. You can certainly do that with this kind of technology. That's not what I'm talking about. What I am talking about is making sure that you have a queue of 5 or 10 tweets per day so that you can tweet, once every hour or so, which is kind of helpful. Tweet great content to people so that they can see it. Maybe even tweet the same thing 2 or 3 times at very different times a day so that one time when you tweet it, your U.S. Twitter followers see it, and another time you're hitting the Australia crowd. Those kinds of things I think are right to solve with automation. So be careful about not flooding your Twitter followers with this technology. So the first tool that is like this that I want to call to your attention is a tool called Bulk Buffer over at bulkbuffer.com. And this is a tool that basically takes a very simple flat list of tweets. You can create these in Excel or whatever, your text editor of choice, and upload those tweets into Buffer, and it will jam them into your Buffer queue by the published times that you have set up and just send them out one right after the other as queued. And so that's great. It works really well. It's very simple. It doesn't have a lot of features. It's free to use, and they accept PayPal donations. That's over at bulkbuffer.com. That's a pretty good tool, and that one's been around for a while. At least I've known about it for a while. A second tool that has just recently come to my attention is this tool called Bulk Publish. And Bulk Publish looks like a little more polished tool. At least that's the direction they're headed. They have a fancy splash page on the front, and it looks like they're really headed to be a kind of a pro series tool, not a donation based thing, but more of a subscription based higher end tool. But the thing that is interesting about the bulk publish tool over at bulkpublish.com, it does the same thing as the first tool, but it also supports inline images. And that's really important in Twitter. So, you could spend some time composing a database of 500 tweets that were really useful, evergreen content for your audience, and make tweeting those tweets out periodically on some schedule part of your Twitter strategy. And that's exactly what I intend to do with bulk publish. I will be increasing the amount that I'm tweeting, which is something that I've needed to do for a very long time. I'll be sending people to absolutely fantastic content on my blog and other authority blogs in my niche with that they need to see, that they're very important evergreen content with nice images that will draw their attention and get them to click and drive engagement. And then when they reply to those tweets and so forth, I'll be engaging with them personally, but we'll start the conversation in some cases with that. Now, that won't be my entire Twitter strategy, and it shouldn't be your entire Twitter strategy, but there's great content out there that people legitimately need to be reminded of, and that's what I intend to use this for on a limited basis. So I really like this tool, Bulk Publish. A disclaimer, I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I will tell you that they're really just getting started. I've been talking to them on Twitter a little bit. They're really just cranking this up, so your mileage may vary. The good news is this isn't in the critical path. It's not like this thing is actually sending tweets. It's only uploading content to Buffer, and it's Buffer, the established tool, that's actually controlling your tweets. And so that makes me feel good too, because sort of anything that one of these bulk upload tools messes up, you could undo over in Buffer before it got to your audience. So it's pretty safe to experiment with this, and I recommend you try it over at bulkpublish.com. Again, very important that you tread lightly with these tools, because if you really hammer your audience with a bunch of repetitive tweets that aren't relevant and aren't helping your audience, they're going to unfollow you right away.
Direct from the Orient, it's time for the Internet Marketing Fortune Cookie.
Okay, so the last thing I want to do today is hit you real quick with the latest Internet Marketing Fortune Cookie. It's my claim, as you know, that everything you need to know about internet marketing and how to be successful in internet marketing can be learned from fortune cookies. And today's fortune cookie says, the limit to your abilities is where you place it. Now, I told my 8-year-old son about the internet marketing fortune cookie. He liked the idea, but he was upset that I wasn't including the lucky numbers, which this week are 5, 9, 45, 13, 12, and 2. So if you're looking for 5 lucky numbers, there they are. But I think the fortune is very telling. The limit to your abilities is where you place it. You know, this goes hand in hand with what we were talking about with Bob. If you decide that you can have a successful online presence in the photography niche, you can. And if you decide you can't, you're also right. Whether you decide you can or you can't, you're right. And so the limit of what you can do in internet marketing is really dependent on what you set your mind to. And I really do believe that. I know many times the only thing that is stopping people from getting started is deciding in their own mind that they can really be successful, being to imagine what that success looks like, being able to picture the future where that project, that internet marketing project, is successful and has reached some level that they maybe couldn't even really imagine was possible, right? That's the kind of dreaming you need to do. If you can place the limit there, you'll be successful. I hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic holiday season, whether you're celebrating Christmas or Hanukkah or Diwali or whatever, wherever you are in the world. This is a season and a time to be thankful and reflecting all the great things that have happened to us in the year and unleash all the possibilities for next year. I hope you take the time to do that and recharge your batteries. I will be having another episode of the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast on Christmas Eve. That's December 24th here in the United States. So until that time, I hope you have an absolutely just mind-blowingly fantastic, off-the-hook Christmas season. Peace to you and your family. Talk to you soon.
You can do it right when it's late at night.
You've been listening to the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
Be sure to visit latenightpodcast.com today to leave feedback for Mark. Download special bonus content, access the show notes, and more. See you there.
Until then, go and make some great progress on your internet business. One night at a time.
One night at a time.
This week on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast, we have no idea what we're going to be talking about. With that, now that won't be my entire Twitter strategy, and it shouldn't be your entire Twitter. It always amazes me when I look in my stats, Libsyn hosts my. Of course, you can talk to people about lithography, and lithography. Of course, you can talk to people about photo.
Late night internet marketing.
Hey, it's Mark again. I wanted to tell you one more time about this absolutely free resource that I have for helping people who are trying to get the big picture for internet marketing, actually get started and understand what all their choices are. If that's not you, there's no more content. You can skip to the end. But if you're someone who came to this podcast because you're searching for how to get started online and you just can't cut through all the noise, I get it. That was me in 2007 when I was trying to get started. There were so many people throwing offers at me that I really couldn't even understand what all the different business models were. I couldn't understand how money moved around on the internet. And I couldn't really get a grip on what direction I wanted to go in so I could figure out how to move forward. I've created a free video resource for you just for that purpose at latenightim.com/explain. In several short videos, I just explained to you what internet marketing is all about and what online business is all about and the different options that you have for starting an online business. There's nothing to buy there. You just sign up for access and you get the videos just like that. So if that's interesting to you, or if you know someone who's in a same situation, send them that link, latenightim.com/explain, and let me know what you think. I'd love to hear what people are thinking that are in the exact same position that I was in more than a decade ago in 2007. In some ways, it seems like yesterday. And in some ways, it seems like an entire lifetime ago. Again, that's latenightim.com/explain.
Late night internet marketing.